So I'm Arundel County Executive Stuart Pittman, and we are outside the offices of our Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families, and we are announcing today the composition of our new joint initiative on the Opportunity Gap. So in 2005, Anne Arundel County Public Schools signed a memorandum of agreement with Anne Arundel NAACP, setting forth a plan to close the achievement gap in our schools. The gap in education outcomes between white kids, black kids, brown kids. And then on September 23rd, 2019, our school superintendent, Dr. George Arlotto, and I hosted an event to assess where we stand in that effort and to launch a new initiative to close the gap. Over 200 parents, teachers, students, and community residents showed up and shared their ideas. All of you were there. On November 6th, 2020, the joint initiative to eliminate the opportunity gap presented its 43 pages of recommendations. Recommendation number 1 was this: establish and empower an independent coalition of stakeholders, including those with lived experience of the issues, to provide ongoing review and oversight of structural and systemic racism that contributes to the opportunity gap in Anne Arundel County Public Schools and the county, and to recommend changes to address equity issues in academics and discipline. On May 18th of this year, I signed Executive Order number 47, establishing the purpose and the structure of what was envisioned in that recommendation. Today, Dr. Arlotto and I will announce the membership of the new Joint Commission on the Opportunity Gap, a group that will meet for the first time at 6 p.m. tonight. But before I announce the names, and before we hear from Dr. Arlotto and some of our leaders who will drive this effort, I must acknowledge how difficult and how important this work is. It can't be done by our school system, by our county government, or by our community leaders alone. It takes all three working together, and that's what makes this effort different from what was done in the past. But to me, that's not enough. We need specific goals and strategies to achieve them. And today, I will announce the goal that I think is the most important, the one that enables all the others, a goal that is achievable, and a goal that inspires us. By the beginning of the 2026-27 school year, the last year that I intend to hold this office, Anne Arundel County will reduce by half the percentage of children who enter our kindergarten class not demonstrating what we call readiness. According to the Maryland 2019-20 Kindergarten Readiness Assessment Report, only 46% of our children are assessed as ready. That number is 55% of white children, 34% of African American children, 28% of Hispanic or Latinx children. We can get that number to 76%. And we can do it by the time the kids being born today are entering kindergarten, the year 2026. You see, we know why kids aren't ready. They're not ready because their families don't make livable wages, can't afford quality health care, can't afford child care, don't have good access to pre-K programs, don't live in decent housing, don't have good health care or get nutritious meals, don't have internet access, are plagued by addiction, or experience the trauma of violence. They aren't ready because we as a country, a state, and a county have failed to address what we in our county have called poverty amidst plenty. As the most wealthy among us have prospered, the ALICE population, asset limited, income constrained, employed, has grown, even before COVID. The disparities accelerated during the pandemic, and our kindergarten readiness scores may go down before they go up. But you know what? We're finally waking up. We are finally confronting our failures. With help from the federal and state government, Anne Arundel County is mending the holes in our safety net and rebuilding our economy from the foundation up, from the lowest wage workers and the most vulnerable families, the ones who cut our grass, bag our groceries, and even the ones who've temporarily dropped out of the workforce due to mental health challenges, addiction, physical illness, or lack of good child care. The federal child tax credit program that passed Congress as part of the American Rescue Plan in March is expected to reduce childhood poverty by half. Maryland's Blueprint for Education makes pre-K available to every Maryland child and establishes community schools to support local families in lower-income neighborhoods. Maryland's minimum wage is on its way to $15, and employers are raising entry-level wages in advance of the mandated increase because there are more jobs than qualified applicants. Anne Arundel County is investing like never before in mental health services, nutrition assistance, affordable housing, public safety, and public transportation. And we're doing it in partnership with nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and every agency of county government. We are all in. Combined, these efforts offer hope. Hope for families that deserve opportunity, and hope that our county's children will enter our school system ready to thrive. 76 by 26. 76% kindergarten ready by 2026. That's my commitment, and it's my challenge to this commission. The members that will be meeting tonight for the first time are as follows. Half are appointed by me and half are appointed by Dr. Arlotto. I'll read the names of both. First, those that were appointed by my office. Karen Murphy, who's here, Anne Arundel County Office of Personnel. Connor Curran, Anne Arundel Community College student. Thornell Jones, Anne Arundel County NAACP. Reverend Mahi Kim Fort, First Presbyterian Church in Annapolis. Monica Lindsay, Connecting the Dots. Tatiana Klein, Marshall and Hope Corporation, Allen Apartments Project. Appointed by Dr. Arlotto and his team are Indu Bodala, Glen Burnie High School student. Patricia Sainuk, Anne Arundel County Public Schools Coordinator of Early Childhood Education and School Readiness. Stephanie Jones, AACPS Pupil Personnel Worker. Peggy Cruz, Department of Health, School Nurse. Richard Rogers, Principal, Walter Mills Parole Elementary School. And Dr. Julie Ann Halleck, AACPS Citizen Advisory Committee. This extraordinary group will guide us and they will drive us to meet this goal and each of the performance metrics that they establish through their work. My promise is to listen, to respond, and to deliver. And now we'll hear from my partner in this work, Anne Arundel County Public Schools Superintendent, Dr. George Arlotto.
Thank you, Mr. Pittman. We are very appreciative of Mr. Pittman and his commitment of county government to this partnership, and we are looking forward to supporting the work of the coalition as they dive into this important work. I do want to recognize at this time the hard work and leadership of the Fabulous Five, who have spearheaded this initiative and are responsible for getting us to this point. Dr. Purcell and Dr. Brown from the county executives team, and from Team AACPS, Dr. Ogilvy, Dr. Gillens, and Mrs. Jackson, our Deputy Superintendent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Regarding Mr. Pittman's goal for preparing our youngest learners for kindergarten, I think this fits nicely with the second of the 4 priority recommendations of the Joint Committee in recognizing the role and influence of our county government and community have in eliminating barriers to student success in both life and in school, particularly those determinants that could influence a child's readiness for kindergarten. With this, Mr. Pittman is recognizing that many of our students enter their time in our schools already in the gap. And creating an environment where children and families have access to health care, healthy food, employment, and transportation, to name a few, can all have a positive impact on the growth and development of a child. So, like Mr. Pittman and his amazing team, we are committed to the success of all of our students and will work diligently, and we do every day, to elevate all students and eliminate all gaps. Thank you for the opportunity.
And now we'll have Mr. Thornell Jones, who I can honestly say is one of those who made all of this happen from day one.
I want to thank you, Mr. Pittman, for this opportunity. I'd like to talk about the history of the opportunity gap. In 1860, Anne Arundel County was more than 50% African American. At that time, the county spent $4 on black schools. By 1872, the county only spent $783 on black schools, while it spent $30,000 on white schools. Unfortunately, schools were not integrated in these United States until 1954, when Brown v. Board was decided by the Supreme Court. But unfortunately, in Anne Arundel County, schools were not fully integrated for 12 more years until 1966. At that time, many African American teachers and principals were retired, by which I mean not allowed to participate, and the history of community building was lost. People like Walter Mills were community builders, and the school system still needs to think that way. When Mills was principal of Bates High School, his salary was 1/3 less than white principals. Because our citizens have not been taught the history leading up to segregated schools and the reason why they were integrated, myths about African American children and their teachers still prevail, even for some present-day teachers and administrators. The problem was so bad that 50 years after Brown v. Board, the NAACP filed a formal complaint with the U.S. Office of Civil Rights against Anne Arundel County Public Schools, saying the 75,000 student system is, quote, limiting the education and employment opportunities of our youth. Although having been revisited in the interim, that suit has never been resolved. In fact, the school system continues to address this problem without success. It has been recently officially recognized that the school system may need help from the county government to address some issues. So today, it's called an opportunity gap, and we're here to bring focus on it. The problem is, and has been, a community problem. We need to know each other to work together, as it has been shown in industry after industry. Citizens trying to keep from knowing one another are counterproductive in solving the problems that we all face. Years ago in this county, citizens tried to keep Maya Angelou's "I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings" out of the schools. Even then, it had been a work lauded by the nation and celebrated as great literature. Banning literature and researched history is not helpful in developing a knowledgeable community, especially a community that must, of necessity, celebrate diversity. We must change our behavior to be able to survive the changes coming to the United States and be up to the international pressures our divided society will face during the 21st century. Even school attendance boundaries will have to be changed to ensure all students benefit from the diversity of our population. Continued division is being brought by those who are raising CRT as an issue, not knowing what it is, not recognizing that it's a graduate law discipline of critical legal studies, not the history that we all must embrace if we want to know one another and learn together. We must recognize that we have crippled the U.S. in our divisiveness, and we have lost our edge in science and technology. Today, we only have 12% of the world's scientists and engineers, whereas not too long ago, we had 40%. Our technical excellence lacks the people of color scientists and engineers because there are those in our society who continue an age-old practice of falsely thinking people of color don't belong in the sciences. Thus, they do not support the effort to nurture young, would-be African-American scientists early in life. The results are devastating to the United States, and we are to blame. These are some of the reasons I, as a physicist, am focused on eliminating the opportunity gap in Anne Arundel County and making our county a model for the rest of the United States, where everybody here will know that this is the best county for all.
Thank you, Thornell, for reminding us of the facts of our history. And now we have Dr. Maisha Gillens, who's going to talk to us about some of the great work that's been done in the school system and where we stand, how we're going to get to the next steps, I think.
Thank you. Well, as previously stated, this is a partnership. So this responsibility doesn't just land on the shoulders of Anne Arundel County Public Schools. This is truly a collaborative effort. So I thought I would approach my part of today by reminding us of the recommendations that the coalition will be working towards. The first recommendation is why we're here, right? Having a group of individuals who represent the county, who represent the school system working together. So we're here today, yes. Recommendation number 2 was really identifying those social determinants of education in low-income communities. And I know Dr. Pam Brown will be speaking through that lens. Recommendation number 3 is to really look at everything we do through an equity lens. This is work we're already doing, we've been doing. And every time we make a decision to have equitable outcomes for students, we're always looking through a lens of equity. How are we ensuring that our underrepresented groups in Anne Arundel County Public Schools their needs are being met, again, in an equitable manner? And then lastly, making sure that we're focusing on early education. And Mr. Pittman already talked about that. Just today, I was in a meeting on the Kerwin Commission. That's the blueprint for education. It's this vision as to what schools in the state of Maryland ought to look like. And there's an intentional focus on really how to build school readiness for students. So that's happening, literally, a conversation today was happening. So we are definitely engaging in that conversation. So again, as I close out, Dr. Arlotto talked about the Fabulous Five, and I'm privileged to be a part of that. But we are, collectively, we had to make sure that the recommendations in this report led us to why we're here today. So I want to thank my colleagues and part of that group to ensure that the work continues. The work must continue. It's our students' lives that are at stake. So thank you.
And then finally, we have Dr. Pam Brown, who directs our Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families. Come on up.
Good morning, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to be here this morning to really celebrate the fact that we've come this far. I've been working on the opportunity gap, both looking at the data and trying to understand the right strategies for probably around 25 years now. It is the single thing that is most emblematic of the inequities that we continue to see across the nation. Those inequities don't start when our children walk through Superintendent Arlotto's doors. They are already there when our mums are having their children, when those babies are born in our most distressed neighborhoods. Everything from low birth weight through the sorts of issues that come when children live in poverty, the trauma that they see, all of those issues have already happened by the time they walk right through our school door. As far as I'm concerned, there is no more important work than this. And I'm absolutely honored to be standing shoulder to shoulder, not just with my colleagues, the Fabulous Five, who have pushed this work so hard and so well, but with our two leaders. And I promise you, both Superintendent Arlotto and the County Executive are quite sincere in their urgency to make strides in this work. I believe both of them. I am honored to work with them, and I am going to do my level best to help with Jennifer Purcell and the rest to support this commission as it does its work. This is a tremendous step for Anne Arundel County. Make no mistake. We can do no better work than this. I'm proud to be here, and I hope you will support the commission. Thank you very much.
So it's time to get to work. I'll be there tonight at 6 p.m. Folks can log in. I think if this is on social media, we'll have the link in the comments. I also just want to say that while this commission is being seated to lead this work, the public engagement part of it is not open. They will be reaching out. They will be having meetings that the public can engage in, and we want everybody to monitor this, hold us accountable, and get this done. So thank you.